We're halfway through the season, so that means it is time for my halfway through the season awards, is what we're going to call it. So just so you know how this works, this is not a prediction of who I think is going to win awards like Coach of the Year, MVP, and Offensive Player of the Year. I'm also going to do Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year. This is who I think deserves it halfway through the season. Simple as that. Some guys have played one less game. I'm not holding that against them. You know, you don't get to choose where your bye week is. So as a whole, that is how I will be doing this. Let's just get started. Let's start off with Coach of the Year. So I'm going to give my pick along with two other candidates for each of these. So the two candidates, I'm going with two guys who used to coach under Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh. I think have both been great. I think early on, I actually made a video where I said I'd pick Mike McDaniel. I've decided someone else I like a little better. But McDaniel's been very good, especially on offense. Saleh's been very good on offense and defense, getting the most out of the talent on offense, and then, you know, being awesome on defense with a lot more talent there. But my pick, Brian Daboll as Coach of the Year. I think that Daboll has done the best job on both sides of the ball. I think that he's done the most he can with that offense to get as much out of it as possible. And I think most he can with the defense. The defense has been very well coached. You know, he signed Wink Martindale, who's been great, which is, you know, listen, that's half the battle, right? Is who are you signing? That's part of what makes you good, is what kind of guys do you go out and get? Who do you get to work underneath you? To me, that's credit to the head coach. So you got offense coaching well, you got defense coaching well, the team believes, and if we're being honest, this Giants team, not very talented. So to get them to have the record that they have, maybe it's partially luck. I'm sure it is partially luck, but I think a big part of it is coaching as well. So I'm giving him the Coach of the Year. Let's save MVP for the end, why don't we? Let's go to Offensive Player of the Year. So for me, Offensive Player of the Year, I would give it to a quarterback if I feel like a quarterback is, that much above and beyond. But typically, you're probably going to give it to someone who isn't a quarterback. So I actually have, for my three candidates, there's three players who are in different positions. I have Travis Kelce, who has been great for the Kansas City Chiefs. He has been elite, and he's top 10 in receiving yards as a tight end. He's always that way. I also have another Giant on this list as not as my pick, but just as someone to bring up, a candidate, Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas has been fantastic at the left tackle position. Listen, a left tackle's never going to actually win the award. You just don't put up statistics, so people don't care about that stuff. Like Trent Williams probably deserved it last year. Definitely deserved it last year, but he's never going to win it because he plays, left tackle. So he doesn't win it here either, though. My pick, Tyreek Hill, he's on pace for 2,000 yards. The guy's been completely electric, and he's doing it in a different system, and he's looking even better in this system. So to me, it feels like an easy pick. Tyreek Hill, my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. What about Defensive Player of the Year? There's three candidates. One of them will kind of tip my... Actually, you know what? Let me do it this way. Sorry for making... I'm going to do that next. Let's do Defensive Rookie of the Year, just because it tips my hand a little bit, so I'm just going to do this one first. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I have... my two candidates are Kirby Joseph and Aiden Hutchinson. So, hey, couple of Lions making this list, at least as candidates. I don't have them, making it. Hutchinson has kind of been disappointing, but even... disappointing is still a candidate because I expected that much from him. So he was my third candidate, I thought. To me, though, there's, those two guys have been good, but they're nowhere near my number one guy, Sauce Gardner, who is also a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's been Defensive Rookie of the Year. The guy's been incredible. He's been an elite shutdown corner in his first season. I mean, that's unheard of at the cornerback position. I mean, the closest I can think of was Lattimore had a very good rookie season, but it wasn't as good as Sauce Gardner's season has been. I mean, he's been unbelievable. He is my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year halfway through the season, and he is a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. He will not win it, though. Neither will Myles Garrett, who is first in Pro Football Focus grade. I had him as a candidate once again. Garrett does that, I know Matthew Judon is like leading the league in sacks and all that stuff, and he's leading the league in pressures as well, but like his defense, his run defense is just not on the level of like a Myles Garrett, so I don't have him there. But you know who I have as my pick for winning it right now? It's a guy from Kansas City. Give me Chris Jones as my Defensive Player of the Year. He is second among defensive players in Pro Football Focus grade. He is fifth in pressures, despite the fact that he primarily plays as an interior defensive lineman. He's been just such a force, such a wrecking ball on that Chiefs defensive line. And to me, there is no question. I am giving it to Chris Jones. I guess I shouldn't say there's no question. You could argue Myles Garrett. You could argue Sauce Gardner, but I'm giving it to Jones. This means that with the Rookie of the Year for the offense now, because I kind of went a little bit in weird order, but we're here now. I have 3 players who, are fascinating, I think. So Chris Olave is the one wide receiver I have making this list. I think he's been great here for the New Orleans Saints. He's, I think, has been the best receiver so far halfway through the season. And to me, I think that the guy who's going to actually win it will be one of the next 2 guys. I put Kenneth Walker as a candidate. I did not have Kenneth Walker win. Some people maybe felt like Kenneth Walker should win, or at least will feel like Kenneth Walker should win. And listen, I get it. I like Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's been awesome. I'm giving it to Dameon Pierce, though. And to me, the running game hasn't been a huge jump either way. I'd actually give a slight edge to Kenneth Walker in terms of pure rushing. I think it's tough. I do think Walker's, they're different players, so it's kind of hard to compare them a little bit, but I will take the guy who has more home run hitting ability. I do think that's Walker in the running game. But the issue is Dameon Pierce is a 3-down back. Dameon Pierce can actually block. And that's why I had Dameon Pierce as running back 1 out of the draft for that very reason, is he can actually, he doesn't tip your hand the way that Kenneth Walker kind of does. If Kenneth Walker's in, you can feel better that it's probably going to be a rushing play because you don't want, or if it isn't, then he's going to run a route. Dameon Pierce, it's a little bit better because he can actually block as well. So again, all 3 of those teams very happy with the draft picks that they made, I'm sure, but those are the picks there. We then have MVP, the last one, the one that everyone's talking about. So for my candidates, I still do have Josh Allen as a candidate. Listen, Josh Allen has turned the ball over at a high rate, and he has put the ball in harm's way at a higher rate. He's actually been a little bit lucky with these turnovers. He has the, I believe second worst, might be worst turnover-worthy play percentage in football now at this point. But he's done so much well. I just the good outweighs the bad for me in such a big way that I'm still putting him here in the top 3. The guys who we beat out were Geno Smith and Tua. Tua missed time. I feel like he's missed too much time for me because I won't hold it against you if you've missed an extra game because your team had a bye, but he got hurt. I do factor that in. I think that's fair. And then Geno Smith's been very good as well, but I just feel like who do I think has added more value? I do think Allen has, so I'm giving him the candidate spot there. Jalen Hurts, another candidate spot who some people might say he deserves it. You can make the argument. I think he's played incredibly well. The numbers are fantastic, but it has been a bit weaker competition. That's the one knock against him, which is fair. You play who you play. You can't control that, but that is true. My MVP, though, it's Patrick Mahomes. Of course, it's Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has been awesome. Mahomes has been, he's always awesome. Mahomes has completely bent that Kansas City Chiefs team. I currently have, interestingly enough, the Chiefs with the MVP, the defensive defensive player of the year, and the guy who I have as offensive player of the year was a Chief last year, Tyreek Hill, and I have Travis Kelce there as a candidate there. So a lot of good stuff for the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, this is my pick for what I think is fair. Obviously, we're going to have some disagreements here, so let me know in the comments below. Where do you disagree with me? Why am I stupid? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.